session. Thank you all for coming, and our first order of business is going to be the pledge. If everyone would please stand and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's also Flag Day, so. Yeah. Which one is on? That one? That one. Good. Okay. The one, the little button. Yes, the little button. Very good. Okay, do we have David?
David Banning, Park Fork. I don't know if you're going to do it tonight, but I would request the board on agenda item A, section C, include that in public comments. That's the disappearing board member. Can we do that? I think the public needs to know. I don't know what
I'll make a statement. I'll make a statement when we get there, David.
We would like to comment, is what he's saying.
I'd like it included. I'd like the public to be able to comment on the situation tonight.
Okay, I'll consider taking public comments during that agenda item. Okay, approval of fiscal year 2017 budget, Ms. Howells.
Good evening. Tonight I'm going to spend probably about 20 minutes going through the proposed fiscal year 16-17 budget. Our fiscal cycle goes from July 1st to June 30th. And at the end of the presentation and after any board discussion, it requires by statute a motion to approve the fiscal year 17 budget. The document that I'm going to go through tonight will be, after approval, posted on our district website. We've done that for many years, and in the more recent years it has become a requirement in the state of Idaho as well. All school districts are also required to submit the same budget in a very different format with hundreds of line items, with no narrative, just the general ledger account codes and the dollar amounts. And it's our district's choice to give more of an executive summary here that is user-friendly for individuals and stakeholders that know nothing about school district lexicon, and hopefully can glean the pertinent information quickly through charts and graphs. And I'm just going to go through Thank you for bearing with us. Great, thank you. We realize that it's a little blurry here. We have to focus the projector as much as possible. The page numbers, for your reference, are on the bottom right-hand side. And so the first part on page 1 is a profile of our district. It shows the zones of our trustee and who holds those positions. It also discusses when the school board meets and where they meet. And it also delineates the annual meeting, which for this year is July 19th of 2016. The next section highlights our schools and the contact information, as well as the central office administrators and our fiscal accountability team. And it also shows on page 3 the respective administrative contacts per building, and below that the other departments: child nutrition, facilities, transportation, and information technology, and their respective contact numbers. It provides a small bulleted overview of our district, the number of students. We are projecting about 3,675 students next year. We are the 22nd largest school district of the 164 public school districts in Idaho. Our total overall budget is $31.6 million next year. And on a per pupil spending basis, just for reference, for the final audited fiscal year at the state level, which is 2015, we ranked 53rd in general fund spending per pupil at $8,315. Oh, I should also say that there is, in all the other funds, about $3.5 million in federal, some small state money, and yeah. We also want to give a visual on page 4 of the structure of our district and basically who reports to whom and who to contact. And then the next 3 pages, the budget summary message, which I'm going to spend the lion's share of our time this evening, is meant to be the sole source for any reader on how our budget was configured and the highlights that allowed us to arrive at this budget. So again, it's overall it's $31.6 million. We started the budgeting cycle about 4 months ago, addressing 4 factors. We always want to project our student enrollment. We also, now with Superintendent Yubera in her 2nd year, projecting what the state appropriation will be and how that marries or did not marry with the state superintendent's proposed budget, bearing in mind that there was a major piece of legislation affecting the way how the state funds the teacher portion of our state appropriation annually, referred to as the career ladder, and would the 2nd year of that phase-in model be implemented. Also, we did not know, based on what our appropriation would be, if we would have to utilize a reduction in force of any staff members. And then again, knowing that on the federal level and on particularly the state level, that there's still a modest climb out of the recession. So this process is the result of meeting with the school board and stakeholders and dealing with potential volatility in funding. So in the fall of 2015, Idaho legislators already start grappling with revenue forecasts, and as the winter clicks on and the governor's office also comes up with projected revenue forecast, and the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee arrives at a target revenue forecast from which to then build all the agency budgets. JFAC ultimately recommended a 7.7 increase to the K-12 appropriation starting July 1st of 2016, and that translated into, over our current appropriation, an additional about $1.3 million. Our state appropriation is about 70% of our overall general fund appropriation. Our supplemental levy, which is in the first of its 2 years, this fiscal cycle now being discussed here tonight, it's just under 30% of our general fund revenue, and then the residual 1% comes from a myriad of other sources. So I articulated that effective July 1st of 2015, one of the most sweeping pieces of legislation as it pertains to the K-12 appropriation in this state changed how teachers are how school districts are paid for teachers' salaries, and our legislature agreed to implement year 2 of this phase-in. So other things that are bullet points here as far as highlights in structuring this budget Our, this year that we're just closing out, our student enrollment was about 60 students over what we budgeted. And there is a visual that we'll go to on page 8. And we're projecting next year an increase of about 27 students. We also now for many years have built in, for no better term, a budget buffer when the actual students show up in September. If there are more students or if there are pockets of larger class sizes where additional resources need to be deployed. The second bullet point shares with you that we ultimately, to balance this budget, cut about $182,000. Since I've been in this position going into my 12th year, because of the economic downturn and because prior to that our school district for 5 consecutive years experienced a large drop in enrollment, almost 14%, we had been in the position of cutting millions of dollars. So this cut of $182,000 is the most modest in relatively recent history. The net result of that was a half of a teacher position being cut, $71,000 out of multiple various classified positions, and just about $12,000 to our fuel line item. On top of that, we've also budgeted $130,000 in contingency. In the state of Idaho, you can actually budget up to 5% of your general fund budget in contingency. We're projecting that our fund balance as of June 30th, 2016 will be $2.7 million. And as a school district, we use that fund balance sparingly for any unanticipated expenses or events. I mentioned earlier, our supplemental levy will be in its second year, $7,883,000. And on page, let's see, 23, we detail for the reader how we spend our supplemental levy. We are required to report our supplemental levy as our general fund, and I'll go into that when we get to that part of the presentation. And then finally, we have very little debt in this district. We have $51,000 budgeted for a lease purchase agreement that covers our central office here in Ponderay. You also know as a school board that on August 30th of this year, the school district is bringing a plant levy before the property tax voters. Of course, if that measure is successful, we'll probably come back to you because it would be a pretty large line item and amend the budget. That's not a requirement to include the plant fund that by statute all that money has to be controlled. So the net result of that is a 4.2% increase to our budget compared to on the state side it was a 7.7% increase in appropriation. This graph on the left of the screen charts the history of our district. Became a district in July of '99, and you can see the high point was we had very close here. This is the part we're talking about where we had massive enrollment drop, and we're projecting just a slight uptick next year. And then the other thing that's important to know of our school district, we have a board policy that has a goal of setting aside 5% of our general fund, equal to 5% of our general fund revenues for the designated reserve. That target number would be $1.4 million. We're not there yet. And it also says that on an annual basis, we will pay into that reserve fund $100,000, which in the economic downturn was put on hiatus for several years, and now this year and next year that contribution is being made. This just again on the left shows you a visual of the history of our fund balance in our district. And on the right, all school districts must report in the identical format their financial information. So, can't see this, but this is the actual statewide information for 2015, and this is our proposed budget for 2017. And here, singularly, is the largest variance. I mentioned earlier that our school district has no debt, absolutely negligible, and statewide it represents about 9.1%. So huge, huge variance of 1/5 of 1% versus 9% of a school district's annual budget. Just other important things to note that the volatility of the net taxable value of our district is demonstrated here. The high point being $5.5 billion in valuation in fiscal year 10. We're not back there, but you'll see that we're projecting for the second year in a row after several consecutive years of loss in value that our district will appreciate in value by about 2%. And then the other really important thing to know historically is that the law changed in Idaho pretty fundamentally on how school districts were funded, where there was previously a non-voter approved, basically mandatory part referred to as equalization that the property taxpayer paid as part of the annual appropriation on the state level. Then other things for reference, this piece of paper is generated by the State Department of Education after all audits are submitted by October 31st annually. And so you can go to the State Department and download all 164 school districts' financial revenue and expenditure audited information in this format for comparison.
Is this state totals?
No, that's our total for last year.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's because obviously our audit for the current fiscal year, that audit work really doesn't start until August.
Oh, I'm with you.
And then you will hear the audit for this fiscal year closing June 30th of 2016, generally the first week in October 2016. And other important things are taking our budget numbers and trying to consolidate them for the reader on the revenue side on the left, and then all of the different programs. This document on the right, all school districts in this exact format have to present and publish. Basically, it's two years prior of actual expenditures and then your proposed budget. And I'm sorry you can't see this, but the biggest change from the year we're in to this year is, recall last year we made the decision to transfer $520,000 to the bus acquisition fund out of reserves. You know, we're not dipping into reserves this year, just to the contrary, as I mentioned, here crediting $100,000 to our fund reserve. And then the other big change on the federal level, we did not have the information, went from 4.1 million to 3.5 million. This was the unknown, when we thought potentially the loss of the school improvement grant dollars for the alternative high school, and it turns out that two different awards were made. Then the next several pages, pages 16 through 22, take again the format that we must report to the state and try to make it more user-friendly. So it just compares the revenues for our current fiscal year to the next fiscal year, and then by what's called programs, elementary, secondary, vocational, etc., Board of Education, business, so that you can see the different categories that we have to, what are called objects, salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, and if we had any capital items, we would also have that included, but our budget is almost completely absent of capital items with the exception of some funding in the supplemental levy for our technology department. Then the second part of this just shows you the other funds. They're called special revenue funds. Largest being the Title I program, the second largest being our child nutrition program. And that concludes my prepared remarks. Are there any questions?
Going back, which is something that kind of...
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I said that I would also share with you that on the final page of this document, again, included in the general fund summary are how we, in fiscal year 17, anticipate spending our supplemental levy dollars. Sorry, Barb, that was an important thing I wanted to mention.
Just kind of going back to your page 11, I was just how we compared and such like that with the statewide versus what we do. I was just noticing that our also supplies and materials were that we pay for, that we budget for, was a larger percent. Can you help me understand maybe where it's going to, or what we could be doing different to kind of rein that in a bit?
So recall that we have built into our supplemental levy a math adoption in this year, although we purchased all the materials now, but they're budgeted for next year. So the math adoption falls under the category of supply. So in a year where you have an expensive adoption, it's going to sort of falsely buoy the percentage being spent on supplies. I mean, that's the easiest thing.
So that would include all curriculum expenses.
In the absence of a large adoption, it will be more in line with the statewide average.
Okay.
And on that same page, our salaries are lower than the statewide average. And as we go on in our career ladder, will they align more with the statewide average?
So the career ladder really has nothing to do, in our case, with our school district's salaries and benefits. That's negotiated for the teachers, which is the largest dollar amount. I can't say how other school districts will react to the career ladder. This year, the career ladder, on average, increased teacher allocation by 5.5%. So that's substantially larger than it has been in prior years antecedent to the career ladder.
Right.
I could say that it certainly has allowed our school district to implement a career ladder and to give a compensation adjustment this year. On average, the adjustment for all categories was about a little over 4%. If there aren't other questions, I do need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2017 budget.
Do you have any comments you want to make about this?
No, only that I know it's an extraordinary amount of time and effort went into this, and by our fiscal department, I appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, once again, well done. The first place that I go to when I get this document is the budget summary message, which it was once again really well done. It helps, I think, the reader zero in on the big points. And I'll note that while there was a 7.7% increase that the state provided, our budget only went up 4.2%, which I believe is reflects the fact that they only cover 69-point-something% of our budget, or 60.
Just under 7%.
Yeah.
Right.
So is there any more questions for Lisa?
I just want one more minute to look through this.
Yes,
I
take
don't
your
have
time.
questions,
Take your
but
time.
I just want to look at it.
Take your time.
Lisa, you referenced that page 23 as the supplemental levy breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean in here on page 6 when it says there's a page 24 for a detailed summary of the supplemental levy? Is that just page 23?
It would be page 23.
Okay,
Thank you, we'll correct that before it's posted on the website.
okay.
But it's a really important point that it's included in the summary of the general fund.
Right.
We talk about it as if it's a separate entity, and for all reporting requirements, it's one and the same.
It's in the same, right?
It's our choice to break it out so that if property taxpayer or any interested party said, you know, how are the supplemental levy dollars specifically spent, we can detail that. I don't know of another district in the state that does that. They just collapse it all into the general fund.
Okay, so this 8 is in this 8 million is in this 28.
Correct.
Yeah. It's clear to me.
I would make a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the budget for 2017.
I would second that motion.
Is there any more discussion? Any more questions for Lisa? Do you have any parting words?
No, just thank you very much. It's great.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
I need a motion for the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
And moving second. Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Under administration, we have the approval of resolution 16-06, innovation in the school agreement with Clark Fork Junior Senior High.
Yes, so you guys remember we had Mike Turlin here before and Phil, and they gave a little bit of an overview regarding what was coming with innovative school designation. And in the packet is an actual document that outlines if Clark Fork is designated an innovation school, basically the parameters from within it, how they will work as a staff. And I am very excited about it because it's very difficult in a school the size of Clark Fork in the rural setting sometimes to get adequate staffing for some of their programs. And it really changes the rules related to hiring quality staff and some other things as well. But Mike and Phil, I don't know if you were planning on saying a few words, but do you have anything to add? I mean, this isn't a for sure deal, right? This is if.
It's just that we do need to have the board sign off on that document. And it has to be, I'm going to board approval and everyone who signs off will mail it by first come, first serve, July 1st, midnight. Mountain time. Mountain time. So I can push that button at 11:01 Pacific time, electronically, get us first in line, and then I'll send a hard copy. But the board doesn't need to sign off on that. There was a document that requires all the staff to sign off, the superintendent to sign off, the principal, and the board members.
So our approval tonight is allowing you to actually
Right.
apply,
Right.
be considered.
And
Right.
there's nothing new that we haven't discussed.
No, I read
This
this
is just
document.
they,
It's all-
they just want a document and show that everyone's
Yep.
signing off. And they want that. And I want to make sure that they get it first.
And they're only taking 10 schools in the state, so.
Right.
Yep.
We're 11, we have to wait a year.
Is this the same program that you were working with Representative Dixon or communicating with him
No.
on? No, it's a different one?
Yeah, it's even better.
This one allows us to bend the rules.
Well,
Better to the students.
For good reasons, because of the,
Well,
of the
the
nature of
state's
the rural
recognized.
school. Yeah, they've recognized, yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
we fossilized a lot of what we need to do, and so this allows us to kind of break that ice.
okay.
Well, I think it's well worded. still a part of our school district. You know, you still have accountability with your graduation requirements and such like that, so.
There's only a few little things, but we're still working hand in glove with you folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And then we'd also probably like to, in the future, develop a community board so we can bounce things off them, our stakeholders.
it's a great idea.
Preferably having a representative from the board of trustees, you folks be on that, and then local community members. So, you know, we have an extra level of accountability, and we can bounce things off these folks and say, well, what do you think? And get that feedback, that objective feedback we might otherwise lack.
Well, it's really nice that your staff, to see all your staff's ready to sign off on it too. So you've gotten buy-in from everybody.
Yeah.
Great remark. We have a good principal.
I know you do.
He doesn't get it.
Do you have anything you want?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting because we didn't know all of this was coming down the pike a year ago, and
Yeah.
it just is fitting in so nicely with all the hard work and effort you've put into your program.
Very
So it's,
complimentary.
yeah, so we're really excited and supportive. Our administration is of this as well.
So they're looking for a motion?
Yes.
I move that we approve Resolution 1606, Innovation School Agreement for Clark Fork Junior Senior High School. I'll second.
Been moved second. Any more questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, guys. Great work, by
Yeah,
the way.
congratulations and
I'm
good
looking,
luck.
yeah, looking forward to hearing the progress as it goes.
Well, we look forward to you folks coming out and visiting us.
Yeah,
will.
Absolutely.
We'll hitch up the wagons and make it all the way out, I'm sure. Okay, approval of calendar change for additional PLC Day October 12, 2016, and change January 18, 2017, PLC Day to January 25th, 2017, for fiscal year 2017. Dr. Meyer.
This is for Mr. Albertson, but we almost.
Oh, come on.
The first one is because they're going to score the district writing assessments, and you approved that this last year. Sanford High School has a lot of papers to score, so instead of taking a full day off or having subs on a whole 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade day and using too many subs in the building, they were able to move it around so they could finish within 2 PLCs. So that's why that October one is there. Feel free to.
You're correct.
And then the January one is because they're final scheduled, so they'd like to move that to the next one for their final schedule. And we did that this year as well.
And we're changing the calendar, so it does require a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the calendar change as discussion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any more questions for?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Appreciate it. Approval of alternate authorization teacher to new certification. Coach Yarno, Mr. Albertson, or is that?
Yeah, so this is basically a common practice that we've done to add an endorsement to Mr. Yarno's teaching certificate. Currently, he is certified in science, biology, working on his, close with his master's in microbiology, and then also has a deep background in anatomy and physiology. And he is uniquely also qualified to run our strength and conditioning program, also with his experience that he's had at Highland High School through the summer months and after school and his years of coaching. So we'd like to go to the state to add an endorsement of physical education 612 for him to take his experience and be able to teach in that area.
Righto.
So.
It's a pretty common request. I mean, we get these every year. And it certainly sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me. Is there any questions for?
The alternate authorization just expedites it? Moves it more quickly through?
The option that we are asking for then is he would actually teach in that area for a year, and then at the end would be taking the praxis. So within 1 year, we'd have to be taking the praxis within that area, and then passing that praxis, then adding that enforcement. So the state allows that to happen.
Okay.
So is he then mentored by a teacher in that?
Correct. In that area. So, or administrator.
Now, are there courses he has to take to get?
Not with option. There's 3 or 4 different options. In option 4, if you have that experience, they allow you to
waive
do
them.
it by actually teaching in that area, having a mentor, and then passing the praxis.
You know, I guess I'm a little surprised that more people weren't vying for that type of position.
Not to fill a coaching position and that position. It's very difficult.
Gotcha.
Very difficult process. So.
Well, I have no problems. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the alternate authorization teacher to new certification of George Yarno.
Second?
Been moved, second. Any more questions for Mr. Albertson? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Albertson. Appreciate that. Okay, the next, I believe, is for our superintendent, and that's the experiential learning program, science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics program, which is the STEAM, and the Clark Fork track updates.
Yep. So we have 3 relatively new programs, as you guys know, in our school district. And we were, rather than take next September, October, we do all of our school reports. So we'll do a more in-depth presentation on each of these programs as part of the school reports. But we thought at the end of every year, we could do a quick glimpse of how the year went and what some of the things we're looking forward to for next school year, et cetera. So I'm going to jump in and just share a little bit about our ELP program, our experiential learning program at Farman. And we just completed year 2, as you all know. We have 2 teachers, and we currently have 50 students in each, or 50 students in 2 classrooms. In years past, a year ago, we added a teacher, and we have enough interest where we could have grown the program. I mean, we still have a waiting list of 150 students, but we really felt strongly that we wanted to work hard on ensuring that we're pleased with where our current program is at prior to making it larger. So we decided, okay, let's not push that envelope. Let's really work to make sure we're at where we want to be. From an academic standpoint, the students are showing really good growth, in particular using relative growth measures, which I prefer over year-end standards assessments anyhow, but where are the students at when they come into our classrooms and where do they leave us? So as you know, with MAP and some other measures, we are trying to get a clearer picture of growth in each content area throughout each year. I'm going to work this summer on looking at the last 2 years of data, including this most recent spring for that particular classroom, and then some other common metrics we have as well. And we'll include that within our October reports. So our goal with all the programs we'll talk about tonight is determining our targets being met when it comes to student learning, and then also from a standpoint of student and parent satisfaction. So how's that going, and how can they help us improve the program? So we conducted both a parent and student survey for the ELP program, and the results are really encouraging, and I'm just going to share some of the themes that came out with the comments. A lot of, over half the parents responded, and some of the key strength areas that were noted were social emotional learning, social emotional growth. That was referenced over and over again in the comment section. Really happy with that. Enjoying the multi-age aspect, liking the fact that their students are interacting both with younger and older students. The real world learning situations that were going on in that classroom, as well as probably one of the biggest pieces was really liking the fact that learning is based on where they're at versus what grade or they're in or what age, what their school age is. So we do that all the time within our regular classrooms with differentiation, but it's not as, the swings aren't as dramatic. So it's very difficult to, if you're a 5th grade student, to really stay in your classroom and work at a 1st grade level as an example, and it goes the other way as well. So that was a very positive part of the feedback that we're receiving. The growth areas, the parents really had a desire for an even bigger emphasis on project-based learning. A lot of our parents felt like, you know, that there wasn't enough of that. That was the biggest concern. You know, are they really getting enough field experiences? Are they really getting enough project-based experience? So Friday was the last day of school, and today I'd already received from the 2 teachers what their plan is for next year. So they've increased their projects by 5 additional projects next year, as well as some field-based experiences that they would like to do. They haven't totally landed on those things as of yet. A letter is going to go out to all the families within about 2 weeks saying, hey, thanks for your feedback. We've met, we've worked, we're making some changes based on what you've told us. As well as the content of the letter will also include some of the learning metrics that were used to determine whether or not students were meeting their targets. So that's where we're at today.
Do any students from the program eventually move into in their age bracket classes? Does that happen at all?
Well, after year 2, we have commitments from all of our families except for 4, I believe, at this point. So we may have some students going back this year into the regular classroom. Year 1, I'm not sure. I don't believe that I don't know that we lost any. It'll be interesting to see though, because we have 6th graders from last year that are currently at the middle school. So they're, you know, what we'll need to do is, how do students that come in and out of that program do in a more traditional setting?
Transition.
And how are they doing in the middle school? Is there transition different?
I only know anecdotally, and we only have just a couple of students.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you that definitively.
So I know the program is definitely growing, and you know, the teachers are, you know, just being very innovative. Still having to adhere to the whole Common Core thing that we're pretty much stuck with as well. Adding, you know, more project-based learning, which I think is awesome, but how is it on the teachers, to be honest with you? I mean, are they just now going to be so overwhelmed that? Well,
they know, I mean, it's an experiential learning classroom. So when we started it, that was, you know, the teachers know this is what I'm getting into. So to be quite frank with you, the conversation that I had with them, and they're phenomenal, Lori Gustafson and Nicole Dash, was, okay, this is what our parents are wanting, and this is why we started this program. They read the feedback, they were instantly, we're all in, let's do it. You know, they know what they signed up for. I think they're like any other teacher where, you know, I remind anyone who does a survey and asks for feedback and asks what can we do better, you're going to get an answer. And at first it's like, oh my God, because they're working really hard, just like all of our teachers. And all of our teachers feel that way when we ask, what can we do better, what can we do better? But will it be more challenging and more planning, et cetera? Yep, for sure. And that's kind of the nature of starting something new,
You mentioned relative academic growth, and I think you said, but I've lost track somewhere in the conversation. When do we expect to see, you know, is there any tangible measurables that we'll look at in September when you do the school reports?
Yeah, and you know, I'll probably give real general data.
Yeah.
But that's what I'll be doing is actually drilling down to the individual student level relative to students in other settings in our school district, which we can do that with MAP We have a high number of our students in that classroom, which is why I like the relative growth data.
Yeah.
Up against some of our other classrooms have 504s and IEPs,
Right.
Which is good because there's some very different kinds of learners in that classroom. But we still expect excellent growth no matter where they're at.
That's why the relative growth is.
Exactly.
an
But yeah,
important
you
indicator.
definitely during our October, September presentation, we'll give you
can
some
look at
data to.
what some of that data is.
You bet.
That'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, and it would give a little more, just a little more context for what we're talking about.
You bet.
Because I know, having witnessed it, how happy those families and students are, just having gone in those 2 classrooms, but now to have put data next to it and say, here's why it works.
Exactly. Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
And you're anticipating growth eventually or soon? or-
Eventually, it's one of those deals where it's really impactful. You have to get real, when you have a school the size of Farm Stidwell as an example, or any size really, to add a classroom, what you're saying is, okay, we're going to take from other classrooms and from other schools and make another 1 through 6 multi-age classroom. And from a scheduling standpoint, it's easier to go all in, to be honest with you, than having kind of doing it piecemeal. So we really want to be careful in that respect. But to be honest with you, the main concern is I don't feel enough confidence that we're in a spot where we could say we're firing on all cylinders and we want to add 25 more students. I feel really good and really excited about where we're at, but I don't think we're at that spot. Hope Elementary will be really interesting next year because they're going to be multi-age based on, I mean, they're shrinking. We'll have fewer than 100 students in that school next year with 4 classroom teachers, I believe, or I think. So we'll be having multi-age classrooms throughout Hope Elementary School. Sherry is really busy planning with staff right now, okay, this summer. What does that look like? What have we learned in the multi-age settings at Farm and Stidwell that can help the multi-age classrooms at Hope? And what we're also wanting to do, because it used to be no one really wanted to teach not no one, but very few people wanted to teach a combo or a split classroom. What we've had to remind some of our families that are being impacted by a multi-age or a combo or a split classroom is that many students do better in that setting. So it's not like, oh no, you have to be in a combo. It could be, oh yes. It requires you to do some different things with student groupings that may prove to be even better for some of our students.
Having taught in a combined 5th, 6th classroom for 4 years, team teaching, it allowed both of us to teach what we were strongest in and to multi-group in many areas. So it was a very positive experience for me, my team teacher, as well as the parents.
Yeah.
So it is a good blending. Now, I'm sure if you pick the groupings carefully, it's important.
You bet.
Yeah.
And many of our regular classrooms, it's really great to see that we're experiencing some of the best growth in our traditional straight classrooms are adhering to many of the philosophies that you do in a multi-age classroom anyhow, like flexible instructional groups, where students are moving in and out of groupings based on where they're showing that they're at in a real flexible, fluid manner. And so that's what I found out this year from last summer, studying classroom achievement, asking those teachers, what in the world are you doing? And that's one of the common themes that we get back.
So firstly, kudos for responding to our customers and coming up with this innovative class. And having said that, how do the parents of children in this classroom, what's their feedback? How do they feel about it? Do they want to continue? And so on and so forth.
Yeah, so definitely. So the parent feedback was excellent. and we'll continue to do a couple more dipsticks next year, but we only have 3 or 4 that haven't committed for next year. So
And that was that survey results you gave us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And is there more parent participation in this kind of class than there is in our other classrooms?
Not necessarily, no, because some of the classrooms are some of that depends on our staff who we have in a particular classroom and their interest in working with lots of parent volunteers, or sometimes you have that year that you want to have a lot of parent volunteers, but you just don't. But not necessarily, no. There's very, very, very involved parents, there's no doubt. People who typically sign up and want something different and are paying attention to the options out there, they are typically a little bit more involved, there's no doubt. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all I have on that one. I think now we're going to do STEAM with Jackie.
STEAM at Southside. This is our first year, and it's a pleasure to recap all that we've learned and share and celebrate.
Can you turn the mic on, please?
It's on, she just needs to move.
Okay.
I think it is on.
Okay. It's a pleasure to celebrate STEAM at Southside with you tonight. What is STEAM? Science, technology, engineering, art, and math. STEAM is different than STEM in that it has the art, of course. Now, some say creativity is the secret sauce. But in STEAM, I'm here to say that an intentional act of finding, aligning, teaching, and assessing 2 or more naturally connected standards equitably with integrity to both content areas. Okay? So, why STEAM? The contextual curriculum, the hands-on learning, the higher order thinking, the creativity that the students learn through STEAM activities, problem solving, critical thinking, communication, self-direction, innovation, and collaboration. All of that in a STEAM class. So where did we go with STEAM this year? We went in four different areas, and the first was our STEAM Thursdays. We reserve 1 hour each Thursday for teachers to teach their passions. And we publish a little catalog, and the students get to select which STEAM course they're going to take, much like you would select electives at the middle school. And we change that up every quarter. Then our second way we did STEM is that we earned some grants for what are called engineering and education curriculum guides, and those are out of Boston University. And each of those guides teach an engineering concept, a science concept. It comes with storylines that teach basic languages. I mean, kids are learning Japanese and all kinds of different languages. And the third one is integrating STEAM in the core. Of course, we've emphasized art. We have an art curriculum and music. And our fourth is we earned a grant for, they're called raft kits for our family math and science night. And raft kits are resources for raft, R-A. I'll come back to that, okay? Resource area for teachers, and they actually put together the kits for us and we purchased them. So here's some pictures of STEAM Thursdays. Some of the classes that we offered, this is Rockhounds. We had coding, drama, yearbook, dance, drama, taking apart engines, building nature trails, building bridges. All of this was, and more, was happening on Thursday afternoons. Oh, here they were inventing their own arcade games. Here's another scary arcade game, even for the shy. And coding class. Our engineering and education units, now here's second graders and they're presenting on their bridges. They were building bridges and using words such as abutment, pier, span, criteria, constraints, stability, and cost. A lot of math was happening as they designed their bridges, as well as kept track of the money they had spent and made sure they didn't go over budget. These are all the bridges. Our family math and science night, like I said, the students, we purchased through a grant these kits, and students and their parents would put together these kits, and these kits would be everything from hydroplanes to windmills to weather vanes and all kinds of math and science and engineering was going on in these kits. As soon as the parent and the child completed a kit, they got their picture taken and off to another kit they selected. Oh, I must have had that one in there twice. So how do we know STEM is working? Of course, test scores. And with a focus on science and technology, engineering, art, and math, we are sure that our 5th grade science scores will just climb. Student energy and enthusiasm. If you had a chance or get a chance to come out on Thursday afternoons, the excitement is so very high. Parent and community involvement. We have all kinds of parents helping build bridges, designing signs for the nature trail up to the outdoor classroom, sewing. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank, but we have some, foresters are helping as well, and parent, student, and teacher input. STEAM next year, okay, we've completed 1 year, where do we want to take it? STEAM Thursdays next year, we're going to add an option of the Genius Hour. We're noticing some of the students are just starting to develop their own interest, and we want to give them the ability to research and design and share with us. We're going to commit to 2 more engineering and education kits, and those are coupled with ELA units that are already in place or with science themes. Professional development, 6 of our teachers are already signed up for iSTEM at the University of Idaho next week. That's a 4-day class put on by the University of Idaho. And STEAM Education offered us a scholarship. We applied for a grant. We needed $10,000 to become STEAM certified, and we were not able to secure those funds. STEAM Education was so impressed with the energy of the teachers that they've offered us a virtual scholarship. So for $50 a teacher and then $250 to prove our portfolio, we can become the first STEAM certified school in Idaho.
Good.
Family math and science night, we have enough kits left over, so we're going to run it again. And we're going to continue with Mrs. Benno's art class, and we're going to incorporate more music. Our music teacher has developed some music strands to be taught in the class, rhythm and music for concentration, rhythm lessons, music lessons. So each grade level will have some additional support for the regular curriculum that way. But also she has applied for a partnership with the festival at Sandpoint to have a 5th grade clarinet class. We're hoping that we can really teach perseverance, discipline, grit with the clarinet. So, what did our student survey say? 95% of our students love STEAM. And after STEAM, I am more interested in technology, I'm more interested in engineering, I'm more interested in art. Are you more confident in this STEAM subjects or strands? 74% said yes. I like STEAM Thursday, 94% said yes. Now you see 76 always, 22 sometimes. STEAM Thursdays made me think, 91% said yes. I like the engineering and education kits, 47% said always, 67% or 20 sometimes. EIE kits, when I was reading the student surveys, whether the students liked those kits depended on whether they liked hard tasks. But did the EIE kits make me think? 95% said yes. So we will be doing STEAM again next year.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Bill?
Just real quick, I went to the LPO senior projects, and they display it, and there was a student there that made a guitar and played it. I mean, how cool would that be if kids to make their own instruments as well? Was the thought. And all that. He's graduated, he's out. Oh, that's true, yeah.
That was, thank you.
I forgot about that. That was really
And
cute.
it was so awesome. Good job.
All right, you guys, thank you for the opportunity again to present on the happenings at Clark Fork. It's been an absolutely crazy, busy year, and pose the two questions. What went well? Well, I think I can honestly say that there has been a lot of finessing and moving with regards to what we took on this year. If you guys remember at the beginning of the school year, we started out with anywhere between 2 to 3 days of dedicated time to our experiential learning tracks. And throughout the year, we found out that it was a lofty goal, and for the second semester, we actually took it down to once a week, and included in there some hybrid days where English and math classes were still held. We found that in talking to the students and the parents, that it was an absolute success. And I'm going to comment on something that Sean brought up in regards to the people that are, there's a huge level of interest, and what we found is it's not only with the families, it is with the community at large. It is crazy the numbers of people who are coming out of the woodwork saying, can I come and help support you for whatever track. The outdoor track is huge. You guys know we partnered with 3 entities, Sol, Schweitzer, and Connexia Land Trust. Through those guys, they have their people out there that can support us, but it's amazing the number of people who jumped in to help with that outdoor track. I mean, we just had a group of fly fishermen come, and they were with, I think Fish and Game, I don't remember, but they came in a couple of weeks ago, and it was great because they taught kids how to tie flies, and they took them out to a local pond and went fishing. We've had wildlife biologists, we've had all kinds of conservation people. If you guys have followed the blog sites at all, I mean, it's amazing what has happened on that outdoor track. I'm going to go track by track. One of the things we learned, not everybody likes to get wet, cold, and dirty. And so after the first semester, because kids have the option of transferring from one track to the following that semester time, we learned that some of the kids, especially in the middle of winter, it's wet and cold, and they didn't like it, and so, okay, we're going to try something else. No problems, because we had a lot of people wanting to get into the outdoor track. Next year, we've already done a lot of planning, and that's just a sample of the outdoor track I handed out to you guys. There's a lot happening, and this track is having those 3 entities help us and everybody else volunteer to help. This one is it's a very clean running machine, and nothing's perfect, and you're working with youth, and so from one day to the next, you might have issues, but overall, it was very, very successful. Moving on to, I'll go on to the art track. You alluded to what you were talking about, how creativity is important. You guys remember, we put these tracks in place due to the fact that our elective offerings were basically, well, falling off the edge. And so what I've learned, especially with some of the kids, due to our population, we can't offer a lot of classes. And so the arts are one of those things. For years, I tried to get an art teacher out to school, and it just didn't work, but we finally were able to get one out there. And luckily, she stayed on, because between her and my English teacher, who has a drama background, they are able to put on the proverbial show. And watching the commitment from the teachers, the students, I think you guys all agree there are differences in students, right? And those students that are really interested in the arts, I mean, they are really interested in the arts. You have to be committed to stand up on a stage in front of people, because not everybody has it in them. And so it's awesome, the fact that we are able to offer that to those kids, because I would say watching our talent shows, watching our just the choir, the growth in those kids is absolutely amazing. Some of the quietest kids are the kids who will get up on stage and just belt something out. And it's really cool to watch. Once again, partnerships. We've had guest artists come in. Columbia Bank, we had the art show down there. It was just an outstanding opportunity. For next year, changes. We received a grant. Actually, we received a couple grants, and there were only 2 teachers that were teaching that class, and it was 2 teachers to organize this and still run your classes. It's tough. And so next year's going to change a little bit, and we actually are starting, and it's not a new term, but like an artist in residence, where we're going to have guest artists come in, whether it's in the fine arts or the performing arts. They're going to be coming in a month at a time, and we actually have money to pay them to come and give us their time. And so that's going to be a big benefit also, because when we've had the actual artists come in that have volunteered their time, you could honestly hear a pin drop when the kids were actually attempting the craft of what was being taught to them. I mean, it was really sweet. And then, actually both the arts and the outdoor track, another positive is we've done outreach to elementary schools and small groups and taught the kids what they learned in their tracks and taught to the elementary kids. So that's also been a big benefit. My next track, culinary arts. That one came, we did not have that at the beginning of the year. First semester, we did not have that in regards to student popular opinion. They asked, and so you know what, we went with it because our tracks were too big initially. And so second semester, we had culinary arts track show up, and that was based upon, I'll say, just connections with NIC. I pulled their culinary arts program, and we kind of put a little twist on it. So basically, it could be a seamless transition for anybody that is interested in culinary arts to go from our school into that program at NIC. And the really cool thing about that too is we had a lot of guest chefs come from all over the place. And I don't know who the one guy is, but supposedly he's kind of famous in our part. So it was nice having somebody of that caliber. What we learned about that one is that kids like to eat, and sometimes they don't have the patience to follow through with I'll say with a gourmet recipe, but it's nice that they're actually being exposed to something other than macaroni and cheese. The other thing we learned that's very positive from that is it initially was a class full that was just girls, and then we got a new young man who decided to join it, but there's a lot more interest in it now, because when you're walking up and down the halls on track days, everybody's smelling it, and it's not the food that they're normally smelling. So we're going to have more people in it next year. And then my tech track. That one was the most interesting and probably chaotic. And when I say chaos is somewhat of a good term sometimes, because you have 34 kids who are interested in building something cool with their hands, and they're doing anything from learning how to weld for the first time to, you guys saw the Suzuki Samurai in the paper doing that. I think I brought this up before, but we had a couple of students who are going off to bigger and better things with full ride scholarships who were splitting atoms in the class. I mean, that's something I would say is probably pretty unique amongst high school kids who are learning how to do that. And it's pretty sweet to have all the lights off and see a big, huge ball of purple and all of a sudden just show up in this sphere. So, kids, one of the handicaps that we had there, once again, there were only 2 kids, and with the kinds of activities that we were doing, our 2 staff members, the kinds of activities we learned that we're going to have to find some more support in that track, especially because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But to get back to where I first started, why did we do this? Okay, we had students who didn't really have many opportunities in regards to electives. Our biggest reason for doing this, other than that, was we're trying to teach the kids that learning is fun again. Where is that passion in learning? Just, I'm sure all educators here can agree, just give me the stuff and tell me what I need to learn, and I'll tell it right back to you. We really want students to be lifelong learners, know what it means to actually learn something from the ground up and not be provided the information. The technology track is a huge example of that. Students walking in there, converting a gas-powered vehicle to an electric-powered vehicle. How do you do it? Well, figure it out, trial and error, what works, what doesn't. And it was really interesting watching personalities evolve, natural-born leaders working in groups of 2 or 3 or individually. It was really interesting watching that kind of develop as well. You guys were asking for what kind of data you have. Sometimes in programs like this, I can probably say for both of them, sometimes hard numbers aren't really, you can't measure everything. And what we're seeing is 80% of the kids, they will jump right in. And I think both of you guys would agree. Your data showed that. They are natural learners. People are inquisitive. How does this work? And what do I want to do when I grow up? I don't know. We're putting things in these guys' heads, and who knows where they're going to go, what they're going to do with it. My students that I told you got into the physics department. How many of you guys in this room can raise your hand and say, I want to be a physicist when I grow up? I can guarantee you it's a full ride for them for their entire college career, because they are few and far between across the nation. And so you don't always have data that will show you this is a good program, but the stuff that you can't really touch, that you might see 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, that kind of stuff tells you a lot about how the program is being, how successful the stuff is. How are we going? What are we doing to transition to next year? Right now, we're continuing on with the same tracks. Things might change a little bit next year because I'm hiring approximately 40% new staff. And so with that comes a cultural change in your building and possibly new ideas. I know from who I've interviewed so far, the outdoor ed track will not go away. There is interest in the culinary arts track based upon an anatomy, physiology, and nutrition aspect. The arts track definitely won't go away, and the tech track, I'm hoping I find another teacher who has some hard skills in that area that can continue stuff like that on. If not, I know that we still have, Marty Jones is retired, but he is still coming back next year to help support that, and Mike Turnlin will help support that one as well. I've already talked to some of the people we've interviewed, and I'll do whatever. And so I'm happy with, sometimes it's fine having a teacher learn right along with the kids. It's going to be interesting. So, any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned turnover with staff. There's the 9 names that are on this, innovation application. Are those team members staying engaged with the school?
Not all of them are now. Nate Guthrie is moving to Post Falls, and
Marty Jones will be just support.
It's just Nate Guthrie. His is the only name that would come off.
Okay.
So the rest are going to stay on.
Okay. And I have one more other question. So when you know, you finished 1 year, and I have heard just outstanding things about the tracks program. One of the things was, well, you showed us that graph that you would still have all the hours for those basics,
Yes.
math, English,
Yes.
history, science. That's your measurable data there to say, in relative terms, okay, we're not losing ground with having this tracks process. They're still testing, being successful in those basic
Yes.
categories.
And we're, like I said, we finessed the schedule second semester just due to that, because we were
Yes.
concerned that we we're
Hitting
not
those
where
hard
we're
enough.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so having students every track day, well, every hybrid track day, having them attend their regular math class and their regular
Yeah.
English class, it was
Kinda
actually
helped
it was good in several ways. The first, they had just totally, this is what we're doing today. We're going to learn this today in their math and English class. It also allowed the instructors because they came from all 4 tracks on those hybrid
Yeah,
days.
right.
And so it allowed those staff members and those kids that were still in the track time, because you were pulling kids in and out all day long, it allowed them to interact in ways that you don't do it on the regular track days. And so it was nice in that aspect as well.
So will we see data on those basic
Yeah,
classes
okay.
when we see the September,
For sure.
October school reports? Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been able to attract additional students into your program who you know, used?
We have.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I will say students from outside of our attendance zone, we have 20% of our kids coming from as far away as Dover, or not Dover, from Macleod right now.
Oh.
And we had several show up throughout the year, and in addition to students, this is my first year where I have had so many teachers applying from all over the place. It's crazy.
That's
so
great.
people are in our community. People are looking for something different, and we all have our own little unique twist on how this different is, what the different is looking like. But it's interesting how many people are actually looking for something that might be a little bit different. The clientele that's come to us, it has been different, and they've come for one reason or another. I have had parents from the farming program approach me already. They might be coming next year. It's different, and I think that's one thing that we can say about every school in our district. We all have our pluses and minuses. We're all unique, but we are all very driven to succeed, and I think parents and I think people realize that.
And that's one of the ideas. You know, we're at the point where I don't think everyone feels this way district-wide. I certainly do. Options are really good. But I think there's a little bit of consternation around, well, if they're offering all these options, aren't I doing a great job in my classroom? The answer is yes. But everyone doesn't fit in this place or this place or this place. So we'll keep working on that. We had about a 10 to 15% increase in enrollment at Clark Fork.
That's
A
great.
year ago, we were worried about what are we going to do?
And that, if I'm recalling the conversation from almost a year ago, and that was in large part due to this particular program. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so how do the parents? You've talked about the kids.
Everybody I've spoke to in regards to parent input, everybody I've spoke to, even some of the kids who I've wanted to wring their necks sometimes because I'm after them because they're not always participating, their parents have said, yes, I like it, my kids like it.
Good.
And the reason why, they're learning things that they would not have been able to learn otherwise. There's a lot to life that a lot of, I can use myself as an example. I had kids at my school this year tearing down a vehicle down to the bare frame and rebuilding it from engine, everything. My dad never taught me how to do that. I wish I could have spent more time in there and learned it.
Actually, when I saw that, I did wonder, are they really going to get it back together? Because we saw it when it was
pretty rough looking.
It was down there. It was
It's amazing
pretty,
when you start putting body panels back on, how nice it looks and how fast it comes
pretty bare
together.
bones, man. I said, I hope they bagged and tagged these things, because I don't know how they're going to get it back together.
Yeah.
Well, and I saw the picture in the paper when it was all finished.
It looked great.
And, you know, it
It's
was
not 100%,
awesome.
but it's almost there.
Yeah, but it looks really good.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
You know, I sense kind of an excitement that last year you were kind of discouraged about where are we going, what direction, but you're very enthusiastic, and that is wonderful.
The pace of life is crazy fast right now. And I'll say another byproduct of this, it has brought my staff even closer together, and they are so much more collaborative. It's crazy. I'll leave it at that. It's sometimes people don't see eye to eye all the time, and it's absolutely unbelievably amazing how close it has brought the staff together.
Good. Nice.
Well, thank you.
Sounds like a great success story. Keep it up.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Great job, Phil. It's, you know, a year ago with the excitement of going in, and I'm sure some of us were wondering, how is that story going to end? And it sounds like, yeah, on balance, pretty darn good.
Keeps going.
Yeah. So kudos for responding to the customers, and I'm glad to hear they're happy.
Yeah, it's a constant moving target. It really is. It's amazing how much we've had to finesse.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Dr. Meyer is going to give us a professional, yes, thank you. Dr. Meyer is going to give us a professional development update.
Okay. Whoops, I've already. All right, you can see that they've changed kind of nationally. Professional development has changed to professional learning, just because it's giving the teachers a learning opportunity versus, it's kind of the same thing, but just statewide and throughout the nation, they've kind of changed that. You can link to this later. I'll show you. No, I'm not, because it'll come off and it takes me a while to get back down. But there is a state requirement that each certificated staff person has an individualized.
Yeah.
You see how that was a good hire? Did you see how?
Coming from the track and cross country team, obviously, you know, was a benefit.
I just want to make sure you all laugh one more time before. This is my last board meeting. I want to make sure you laugh after this.
He doesn't want to pay for another computer either.
Right. So each staff person is required to have an individualized professional learning plan, an IPLP. And so this, what we've done in our district is we've tried to provide that individualized program for each person. Here you'll see this year, I did a comprehensive learning program overview, and it outlines what our mission and our vision, what our objectives are, and then it gives definitions. I think you as a board will be really interested in that. The admin team have gone through it at length, and then they've shared it with their staff, and it just gives a pretty big kind of the why we're doing what we're doing. And then for people that maybe aren't in the professional learning in the profession every day, it gives you definitions as well. So you can link into that later, and I can show you at the end if you want anybody else to see that. So these are pretty much how we've individuated, is that we have university graduate credits through NNU, we have them through U of I, they do a collaboration piece, we have the in-service equivalent set credits, which goes on the negotiations team, remember, as the B7 form, and then we have individualized if teachers come up with their own program developed by themselves. So we have increased participation, and this is up quite a bit from last year and then quite a bit up from the year before, according to Brian Smith and Sean and I discussing. But we've kept records for the last 2 years since I've been doing this district-wide. NNU, we have 73 participants and 12 courses that were offered, and we have a professional development opportunities form also that you could see all the courses. If you're interested, I'd be happy to share that. The U of I, there's 22 participants with the one course, which is a collaboration course, and then in-service equivalent, the B7 forms. Those are the free in-service credits, so that means they do professional development, but they don't want to pay the $60 per credit for the university credit, and the state allows you to recertify with 3 of these free credits, and then 3 have to be paid. So what we're doing in our district is we've really upped the number of teachers that are taking advantage of what they're doing within their profession and counting that as professional learning and giving them credits for the work that they're legitimately doing. So there's 68 teachers that took place in that. And these are just a couple of anecdotals, emails. I'll let you read them. And one more. And that was from a teacher who created their own. So I'm just going to highlight the 4 questions. I'm going to highlight, for instance, at Sandpoint High School, Amy Yost and Tish Mullen, they were really interested in the standards-based report cards and the group that was working with that at the K-6 level. And they thought, how does this really go at the secondary level? So they looked into Alfie Kahn's punishment by rewards, and they did a book study, and they picked that book study. They wrote out, I gave them a template, they wrote out a syllabus, and they had kept notes throughout the year, and they put it into practice at their school. And I shared it with Sean a couple of weeks ago, the reflections for the year and the growth that they've seen, and I'm sure that Mr. Albertson's read it as well. And it is just amazing the way that their brain is moving and that they're thinking outside the box and the way they're integrating and implementing that. There's even a plan next year for working with maybe a physical science class that's going to pilot, possibly. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but they've talked about possibly piloting, no zeros and looking at how mastery-based the students are doing it. They pick things they're interested in. So it's a really engaging process, not what they're doing, but the fact that teachers are finding things that really light their fire and make their heart sing, and they're interested in it, and then they're doing the specialized training during the year, and we're able to give them credit for it. So I think we're unique in all of the other districts I've talked to in North Idaho by the amount and the individuation that we do for our staff. So we're really pleased with that in the district, and I know that it'll continue after I leave because Andrea has a heart for it as well. So good news. Any questions?
You actually answered my question. I was wondering how in line we were with the rest of the district, so you just answered
Well,
it.
as usual, and hopefully I won't be saying this thing here, knock on wood, is that we are ahead of everyone else. We're just always ahead of everyone else, but that gives a good focus for other people in the area to follow now.
Yes. And as is usually the case. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that actually I don't know the answer to, so don't think it's rhetorical because I'm going from a really fading memory here. But when we do the professional development and they can, which will give them 3 credits, isn't there a certain qualification that we have to meet as a district in order to be able to do that?
Yes.
And not every district does that or can offer that. Is that correct?
No, they could. The 3 free in-service, the B7 form,
Yeah.
in-service, you have to write out a syllabus and you have to have the amount of seat hours and prove your professional learning, how has it impacted you and your students, your professional practice. So it really just takes, I'd say, and Sean may want to chime in, but I think it just takes the time and effort, and this came up a couple of years ago. The reason this expanded in our district is because the opportunities, the discussion came up in negotiations.
Right.
We were talking about common interests with the association staff, administration, and we have this common interest for this professional learning to take place. So that, along with the new negotiated agreement with the credits, then those who pay for the 3 credits, our staff in this district is very well taken care of as far as recertification. So it makes me really happy that that's in place for the staff.
Thank you.
Great.
And so we're obviously sad to see you go. And you've done some spectacular work in this area. I've been a huge fan of professional development. I think you've done a spectacular job on it. And I feel that we're very lucky you've been guiding that program over the course.
Well, it hasn't just been me. I'm just the one here. It's really the work that the teachers have done.
Someone has to take the leadership role and get the teachers to buy in and have them participate in this, and you've done a fabulous job. Just let me give you a couple of bumps here, okay? I mean, come on. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Dr. Meyer.
Dr. Meyer.
Okay, Lake Ponderay Alternative High School discussion update from the superintendent. Now, I'll remind everybody that during the plant facility levy discussion, one of the unintended items that came up was all of a sudden there was a choice with alternative high school that we've never had in the past, because changing locations can completely change, how that school operates. And since it's a question with a 50-year answer, we felt it was necessary that this topic be studied in depth and further. And so the superintendent's going to give us a quick update of what his plans are in that regard.
You said it all. So we had just agreed that a real inclusive conversation would take place with all the affected stakeholders and prior to making that decision. Of course, our timeline is far different now because we're in the midst of working on a 6-year levy. But as I went out to their staff and talked with them, I let them know that I was definitely committed to making sure that the conversation didn't get dropped, and that we don't want to wait a couple of years to do that, even though it'll be closer to the time when we'd be actually looking at potentially new facilities. But the plan would be to begin the conversation on this particular topic during the next school year, because it absolutely would reinforce a positive relationship between our district administration, school staff, to make sure we're all on the same page. And I have to say that in the last couple of years, there's always been a lot of great work going on there, but in the last few years, it does feel very different in those classrooms, and it's because of the hard work of the staff, and they're really examining their practices and the impact their practice has on student learning. And so I feel like we took a little step backwards because of this process that we went through, and we have a little work to do to kind of get back on track, but that'll begin next school year.
So you're talking September, you mean next school year meeting?
Yeah,
fall.
probably, yeah, and maybe not the fall. It's going to require not just school staff, but district staff.
Yeah.
And it's a long process.
It is. It seems like there is a need for some staff conversations that allow people to heal a little bit. There were a lot of, seemed like, not happy feelings among staff as a result of this last conversation, and staff not even thinking the same ideas. And so there seems like there's a lot of conversation needed to get everybody on this.
And I think there needs to be a space where people can sit down with open minds and really look at all the options together. And the problem was the staff really felt like, oh my gosh, what's being done to us? I think the conversation will be far different if it's like, all right, meeting of the minds, let's lay everything out on the table, and let's not do what we've always done just because we've always done it that way. Let's do what, if we're going to do what we've always done, let's have solid rationale that we developed together. Yeah. But no, I would say next school year. Timeline hasn't been determined, but.
Okay. Well, we don't want to see that conversation not happen, because there's still a lot of feelings out there that a discussion was started and no resolution was ever arrived at.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be a rushed one. I mean, I think what hasn't been done, the school has done an awful lot on their own related to best practices in alternative kinds of settings, if you will, for at-risk students. We need to have more district involvement, and so there's a better understanding and some review of what has been done, what's worked, what hasn't, et cetera, et cetera. So there's going to be a discovery process. It's been very hands-off for sure, but again, there needs to be a common agreement between all parties about how to move forward philosophically. Whereas the staff definitely feels like, oh no, we got it, we have it figured out. We need to better understand what that is from the district level as well. And to make sure that building leadership is on the same page too.
Well, do we have a general feeling as board members about what we think? I mean, is that something that we're not gonna discuss, or is there a general feeling that we have?
It's gonna take a lot of time.
Look, let me recap it, and then if we could certainly go down the table and everyone express their feelings on it. What happened was the process was mostly revolved around what the facilities committee came up with, but what we discovered because they wanted to move it to their initial recommendation, move it over to the high school campus.
I was on that committee, so
the recommendation that came before this board now, we asked them for some other alternatives and they went away and they did that. In the course of all of that, what became readily apparent is we've only had one choice forever, and they've done a superb job with that choice. But if we changed, and apparently there's some good arguments that say if you move that school over and it's close by Sandpoint High School, that's a whole different philosophy. The offerings are different. There's many things, and it's different. And there, in discussions with the superintendent, we just didn't feel that there was sufficient time to hash that out in a collaborative way that included the staff to really dive into it deeply to say, what do we really want to do? Maybe we end up in the same place where we are. That could happen. But I think it deserves the in-depth conversation, going deep into it, and it's a 50-year answer. I just didn't feel, personally, I didn't feel that we needed to make that split decision in that short time frame without everybody that is going to be involved with this participating at the level that we can feel confident that we know that we're going to be building the best school with the best philosophy, operating philosophy and curriculum moving forward. And that was the superintendent's recommendations. I support that. It's not that we're not going to do anything that's going to go to the second phase. It's just that one deserves and finally has the opportunity to actually have that discussion. We've never had that pleasure before.
So being on that committee, my takeaway from that was the committee really didn't know what to do. Obviously, they felt the LPO was in need of something.
Right.
But they, as a committee, could not,
make those
decisions.
Yeah.
They said, we need to take this off the table until this board here determines what the heck they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it was taken off. That was my takeaway, is because this did need to happen.
I will say, as a board member, I do not have any inclination one way or the other, because I just do not feel like the discussions have been had at the staff level. I would hope that when the conversations do start, that it involves a very extensive group of staff members there who actually know what's happening on a day-to-day basis in those classrooms and in the lives of their students. I don't have it. I think you were asking, do we as a board know how we feel?
Yeah, just what our general consensus is, just going in without talking about it.
Well,
like I don't know. I need information.
Sometimes the wisest decision is to let something rest for a while and reevaluate at another point in time. It's not going to happen now.
Not push it off very far.
Well,
yeah, I think it's rested for a while.
I like that you're letting us address it this year.
It's not pushing it off. It's like there's no buy-in yet.
Well, there's no discussion.
In my opinion, there's no reason to rush something right today.
Yeah, and we're obviously not.
In my opinion is that in all my work in schools over the years as a building principal and otherwise, you always have the opportunity to develop a vision or a path for the future. What usually does not operate into the equation is talk about where should a school be placed if you build a new school. That's the big difference.
Yeah.
We need to have the conversation with staff. Absolutely, it's a small enough staff you can get everybody engaged about, okay, this is a really interesting opportunity here. 6 years from now, what is our 6 or 7 year or 8 year vision? With that piece being part of the conversation. And what I would envision us doing is then making a recommendation, a solid recommendation that we would arrive at through a consensus kind of a model to the board and say, this is what we believe after we've studied it, we've researched, we've dialogued, we've looked at other places. That didn't happen, and and that's why
And it needs to.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
My last little thing I want to say, I'm just going to use your own words, that options are good for our district and not everybody fits into, yeah. So.
Barb, I believe that wholeheartedly, but it doesn't, just because we've done something a certain way for many years doesn't mean it's the right thing to do moving forward. I believe options are important. I agree with you. But I also believe that we have to be really cognizant around how we are spending massive amounts of money, and we need to be careful with how we make those decisions. And it would have been irresponsible for us, in my opinion, I'm just saying, to make that decision
At this time.
at this time.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's definitely fair. We just need to not let it rest for way too long.
I would agree.
I think the superintendent will do an excellent job of creating a timetable that will get us to where we want to be, and with sufficient time to do it and having everyone participate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll have Dr. Meyer back and Jackie Johnson for the approval of second reading of policy 2420, which is the Title I parent involvement. I believe this is an annual.
And I will let Jackie look at any questions.
This is the second reading. We've already gone through this. Does anyone have any new?
No.
No.
That's not me.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion. It needs an approval.
Make a motion that we approve the second reading of policy 2420, Title I parent involvement, as revised.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any more questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to cover the declaration of vacant trustee zone 1, and the first item of this. Well, state code gives us a process that we must go through in this, and so I'm going to go through that first. And that is that we announced, which I just did, and we've accepted Trustee Molander's resignation, and we're declaring it vacant. And the process is that we accept applications, the application of which will be on our website tomorrow morning. And once we've closed the period, which the board will discuss here momentarily, once we have closed that period, we will call a meeting, which is a public meeting, to do interviews and interview whatever applicants have applied, and then deliberate and make a decision. I'm hopeful that we can actually conclude this process by the end of this business year, which is the end of this month. And I'm going to open this up for public comment. First, I'm going to give a little history, because there's lots of rumors and speculation that abound. And I will say that I'll tell you what I know. What I know is, and I think it was probably Mr. Molander's late entry into his re-election that caused a lot of rumor and speculation. But when we were a few days away and I sat down with him, because he's done such a superb job, he's been a great asset to the board, and I've really enjoyed having him be on the board. I think what he brings to the board is a unique perspective, and provides a lot of insight that I think is very valuable. And I was sitting down with him, asking why he wasn't planning on running for re-election. And he told me, he goes, I was considering a job that was out of state. Therefore, I wouldn't be around. And if I'm not going to be around, I can't fulfill the duties. And that was his reason. That had fallen through, and he had actually just taken a position locally. So his circumstances had changed to where now he felt he could. And so he went ahead and put his hat in the ring. He won. I can tell you that he was very genuine and sincere. And I know he enjoyed his time on the board. And as, I forget, I think maybe it was John Lennon that says, life happens when you're making other plans. But he ended up through, whatever, I'm not exactly sure what happened with the employment that he had locally, which didn't work out, and he ended up taking a position in Washington, which is 4.5 hours away from where he currently lives in Clark Fork. And therefore, he has to live over there during the week and come home. I don't know if he comes home every weekend, but he comes home on weekends. And it was with great regret that he felt he had to resign because he just wouldn't be here and available for the meetings. And actually, if you miss 4 consecutive, then you have to resign anyway. And he just felt he was going to be unable to continue on. I think he's done a terrific job, and I want to thank him for the time that he gave us. He served, I think, 5 years total. And I think it was a real asset to the board, and I've truly enjoyed the time that he's brought here. And so those are the facts that I know him, and through firsthand conversations with Trustee Molander. There's some people that want to make public comment. The same rules apply, which is you have 3 minutes, and I want you to be mindful of the rules. And they're really simple. Just, I mean, we have them somewhere. I don't know if they're down there at the table if you want to review them, but it's really simple. It's just be respectful and no personal attacks. And so if you have a public comment that you want to make after what I just gave, what I just explained, I'm going to go ahead and take some public comment. You don't need to sign up, just raise your hand, and what you would need to do is state your name and your address and abide by the rules. So,
Steve, before you begin public comment, would you just say for the record when you heard from Joel Molander about his resignation?
Last week, Friday, Thursday?
Friday.
I think
Friday.
Friday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. David.
There shouldn't be any decision to make here. This goes back to the town hall at Clark Fork. There was 130 people there, and Joel was missing in action, and there was a lot of angry people there. In fact, my wife almost ran for the seat. But anyway, the lady that ran against Joel is sitting right here. She should be given the spot. Nobody else ran for that seat, and there shouldn't be a process to go through. She's the only one that ran against Joel, and I think it was a year ago that we said this was going to happen. We always said we hope it doesn't happen, that he gets in, steps down, and here we are. And this type of decision that you want to make, this gave birth to Trump. This is the situation we're in right now. You're doing against the will of the people if you decide to go through a process instead of just handing the thing over to Kathy Rose. She ran for the seat. Nobody else did.
Okay, thank you, David. I will make an additional comment that we're going to follow state code. Sharon.
Thank you for your explanation. It sounded good. that we doubted, you've got to understand, is a natural thing because we saw this coming. And you followed through and did exactly what we knew you'd do. And I want to express my disappointment that our local politics isn't any better than our national politics. And it should be. We should be able to talk to each other, be honest with each other, be open, and not try and play dirty tricks. And I do agree with David that there's only one other person that had gotten any votes from the people, and the people should be selecting this position. And Kathy Rose is the only one that got some people's votes, and the community knows her. She opened herself up to our community and presented and offered us something. Anybody else is not going to be chosen by the community. So, no, I'm not in favor of your process.
Thank you, Sharon. Excuse me. We know who you are, but you need to state your name and address. And
Daniel Rose. I was censored, and so was my wife Kathy Rose, for this very issue that we discussed here today. And you state, or the board states, that Mr. Molander had conflicting interests in whether to run or not. And it was quite clear that he did not want to run. And I posed to the board this question: who was the campaign manager for Mr. Molander? And who did all of his work? Because the emails show exactly who that person was. And Kathy was censored, and I was censored, and we still are, for making comments about a run, resign, and appoint plan. And I know it happened, and I know there's a specific board member who's looking me in the eye, and has never answered the question, and knows it happened. The witnesses are still there. Ms. Rose was censored for what I said and what I did. There's nothing in your record that you can point to that Mrs. Rose violated that someone else hasn't violated. Other persons speaking in their 3-minute conversations. So I would suggest, and I would say, Mrs. Rose didn't just go away. She's been at every, well, not every board meeting, but she's been representing her presence as much as any one of you over the last 18 months.
thank you, Dan. I would say that yeah, it's mixed results on the no mustache, but we'll get back to you on that. Yes.
I don't like to sidetrack the conversation with that, but I would like to answer back. You're very interested in the voters speaking. Joel Molander, regardless of what you suspect went through his head, and I can tell you genuinely, I never heard anything that suggested he planned this. So regardless of what, if you want evidence, the voters voted him in, and now you're asking us to break state code and do other sorts of things that we would be in violation of. You're asking us to do something illegal. It just doesn't line up. I know you're frustrated that a year down the road you don't have the result you wanted, but the votes came in how they came in, regardless of what you may feel about who campaigned for him. Everybody only had one vote.
Anyway.
So, you know.
Geraldine, thank you. What we need to do is set a timeline, and I would propose, I'll open the discussion, I would propose that we hold it open for a week for applications. Once the applications come in, we would set a meeting, notice the meeting, and interview whoever has applied. And once we interview those, then we would, we would discuss it and then select someone.
And this is all done in public, so anybody is welcome to attend.
The application's posted on the website for a
week? It will be tomorrow morning. The application will be posted on the website tomorrow morning, yes.
Just for just for the heck of it, I'd like to see an announcement in the paper about it, especially in Clark Fork.
Turn your mic on, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would, just for visibility's sake, I would like to see it in the newspaper posted. I would like to see it even posted at the, I don't know, the places where everybody goes to in Clark Fork. Maybe it's the post office or at the schools or whatever, just for transparency reasons. Okay.
I don't know if we can't tell the Daily Bee what to do. We would hopefully we can ask them if they would publish this. The other alternative, of course, is to put it in an advertisement out in the paper. And so I think the Clark Fork paper comes out, I don't know how often, once a month, or I sincerely doubt that's going to be available in a timely way, but the Bee, being the established newspaper in the county. So
Okay.
responding to your question, do you want to put an advertisement in the Bee?
Yes. Or just even in the announcement section or whatever. I know some people over there. I'm sure they'd be willing to work with us. And if we wanted to make flyers, I could drive them out to Clark Fork too. That's not a big deal.
Okay.
Well, it'd have to happen tomorrow because there's
Right.
only 1 week.
Right. So, there's a proposal on the table to do some advertising. So we need to have some parameters. How much, how often? Does anyone have any?
I think it just in the legal section. Do you have to? Is that a pay thing? It's a legal thing, right? I don't know.
We would pay for it in the legals. but
We're
we
not
can-
obligated to put it in the legal section. And I don't know that that's read as much as maybe something,
You could put it in the kudos, that's where it's been before.
well, that's not an advertising, that's
Well,
just, relying on the
but they'll-
paper to do that.
They would, I'm sure they would do that.
They're months out.
Yeah. So,
And
Do we need a motion to approve? What's our board action here?
None.
Just
none,
Just the declaration.
Recommendation? Okay. We recommend we advertise it so that the public feels like they had ample notification on this topic to apply if they are interested.
And the reason for the time frame is that as of the 30th of June, the board gets disbanded and we have to hold elections again. So that's why it's important to have somebody in place before, okay.
Okay. In agreement, yes.
everyone in agreement that we should advertise in the Bee?
Yes.
Okay.
And flyers in Clark Fork area.
I will, and we can maybe rely on Ms. Kemick to help out in that regard also. Kelly can contact the Bee and work that out. I'll work with her on wording, and then we'll have the application on the website tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we will start the process, and we'll the next meeting we'll have to
wait.
There may be some other things, other business that we want to do at the same time, and so I'm going to leave that kind of up in the air just for the moment, and then Kelly can try to coordinate that with all of us.
Okay. And this would be for the remainder of
Joel's term, according to
Okay.
Idaho code.
For clarification. Okay.
Okay. We
Thank
good?
you.
Do you have any announcements?
Steve, may I ask a question on the timeline?
You want me to repeat what we just said?
No, I don't understand what how state code speaks to a timeline, that this has to be done within a week?
No. I wasn't referring to the timelines for state code. I was referring to the part that I did in the very beginning, which was make the announcement, accept the resignation, and then declare the vacancy. The rest of it's left up to us unless we can't find someone or appoint someone after 120 days, is it?
Yeah.
And then it goes to the county commissioners to make the decision.
Okay, so we have a larger window of time than a week.
Yeah, and we've got annual meetings coming up, and I would rather have that seat filled than not. And we have, because we have more business coming forward, and so there's no need to drag it out. I think we'll open it up, we'll advertise it, make it known, and if we don't get any or enough applications, we can always extend it. But at the moment, I think if we get the word out, anyone that is inclined, well, I would assume is going to apply. Again, and if that, we're flexible in that regard, but we have to get it done within the prescribed time, or it goes to the county commissioners and they make the decision.
Thank you.
You have any announcements?
Only congratulations to our wonderful graduates from our school district. I was out of town middle of last week, so I missed 2 of the graduations this year, but I heard Lake Pend High School was awesome. It stayed under 2 hours, which I was surprised with the number of graduates they had. And the Clark Fork Phils gave great reports about that, and I was able to attend Sandpoint High's Friday night, and it was just a joy to see all those students get their diplomas and moving on and onward and upward.
And LPOs was as cute as usual.
All right, it's awesome.
And lots of fun.
Clark Forks was great. Made me cry. I know, we cried.
More announcements? It's good?
We're done.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Meeting adjourned.
All right, should we turn off these mics before I start clapping?